Hi, this is Bee from Sorcery Soap and soapwitch.com now. And I want to show you what we have as a limited set. And it's limited, hopefully you'll understand why it's limited once you see the whole array of things that are offered in this set. So over the last few years I've been writing books about soap dough and soap processes and the creativity that goes into making unique soaps. And it's taken a really long time to get the books exactly where I want them to be. So now I have them and I want to provide the set to you. So each book serves a certain purpose. And the first one is about creativity. Now, granted, it gets a little confusing because in each book I've offered soap dough recipes. And I did that as a bonus. I did that to say, you know, here's extra. So there's always extra. I try to pack everything I can into each book. And over the years, they've focused themselves into particular types of books. So this one is about creativity and changing your mind so you can see your soap craft differently. And lots of information, bits and pieces of historical information about soap making and inspiration. That is like the driving force of this book is inspiration, because if you're not inspired, I can teach you how to make soap and soap dough all day long and it won't matter. It absolutely will not matter, because you'll just copy someone else and then you won't find your own true voice, and that's not the purpose. The purpose of this is to help you and support you find your true, authentic voice. And you can take this information and apply it to any craft, anywhere in your life. It's a practice. So, and this one has the redesigned cover, which I'm very, very pleased with. And here's the back. This is the proof. That's why there is no ISBN and barcode here. But this is mine. These will be here this week. So all fingers crossed, they'll either be available on Friday or Saturday, and I'll make an announcement to that. There's a limited amount of sets, and again, you'll see why soon. But what I'd like to do is just test the sets and see how they go. And then if you sign up for the newsletter, then and also respond to me, I'll get a better gauge of how many sets I need for the future. So here is, of course, the new Soapwitch book cards, or bookmarks, bookmarks. And yes, I know they're supposed to go like this, and they went like that, so we're just going to live with it for right now. But I'm really pleased with the bookmarks themselves, and it tells you all the ways you can connect with Sorcery Soap. And it shares all the books that are available, and I use bookmarks all the time, so I thought I would offer that. And again, these are all, everything that came from all of this is because this is the refined and cultivated version of everything that I do. Like truly, it's as authentic as I can make it, and without all the mistakes. So this is the book, and so you can see, I'm going to go through each book. This is over 400 pages of books. So I didn't want to waste anybody's time. Personally, I can't take it. It just drives me crazy. So there's lots of examples in here. There's lots of information. And that is the precursor. That's supposed to get you going on soap dough. I personally do not like it when people waste my time with things that are like filler. So I don't have anybody looking over my shoulder. I can put in exactly what I want, and I want to get to the point. So if you're reading something and you don't understand why I'm explaining it to you, I actually have a point. I've been as clear in my communication with every one of these books as I can humanly be at this point. Hopefully I'll grow in a greater degree of communication, but for right now, this is what it is. And some things in creativity are a circle around, so you have to come around those. So it might seem that I'm circling around a topic, but what I'm doing is striving to help you see it differently. Because once you start to see things differently, just slightly even, it'll change everything about your soap craft. And you can take the same principles, like I said before, into other crafts. So this book is largely about inspiration and how to change a perception. Again, 3 soap recipes in here, cold process soap recipes that are, once you understand soap dough, cold process could be soap bars and soap dough. However, the caveat with that is you want a perfectly balanced recipe in order to make it into soap dough. So that part I go into more depth about. Okay, so there's that book, An Enchanted Book of Peculiar Ideas and Soap Potions. And a little side note, I got a lot of grief for this title because mainstream thinking people wanted me just to put soap recipes or something generic on top. I'm not a generic person, and I want to create spectacular things. I want to create things that border on magical realism, where you think you step off from practical and fact-based into a little bit of magical thinking, because that makes my life more interesting, and I wanted to share that part. And if you hear the little clip clip noise, that's dog. He thinks he needs to eat breakfast, and it is not time. So we're just going to leave him clip clip around. Okay, so there's this book. Then we have The Magic of Soap Dough. Now, The Magic of Soap Dough is a response to asking practical how-to questions. There is a difference between fact and fiction, and this is a largely fact. And I say largely because I use enchanted terms along the way in order to still stimulate your imagination. But it is grounded in fact, and this is not exactly an opus, but it is definitely a conglomeration of my soap making tips and tricks and insights along the way of making thousands and thousands of pounds of soap. And it's full of photography and soaps and ideas, and it's also full of soap mica recipes, colorant recipes. So there's recipes in here for each color and examples of the color, and there's a list, there's a bibliography in this one, so you can also research some of the things that I've researched, and there's, again, soap recipes. So the soap recipes are just my absolute, I have 20 overall, just so you know. So there's 3 choice ones in the first one and 3 choice ones in the second one, and they're my favorite recipes. So there's that. And this is, let's see, of course I put embellishments, and there's almost 100 pages in this book. I put embellishments and ideas, and I offer exactly step-by-step how to begin with soap dough, and how to stencil with soap dough, and soap cookie information, and just a host of information. I packed as much in here as I could as well, and there's very little fluff in this. The only fluffy parts are the pictures, which I enjoy, because when I become a little lax on my inspiration practice, I'll oftentimes just pick up a book and pore over it and look at pictures, and the pictures give me ideas. And so there's a lot of different ideas in here of different types of soap and different shapes and different embellishments and different uses for soap dough. So there's that book. So then, along the way, I've had a soap recipe book of Light and Shadow, and that book was a large binder with plastic pages and inserts and things like that. And it seriously took me forever to assemble these books. And while I'm assembling the books, and I want you to have these books, which is a copy of my soap recipe book, and I put it together because I don't have a large publisher, so I have to figure out ways to put it together that I can assemble it systematically and then offer it to you. It's the best, my 20 best recipes. So what I figured out is that because I couldn't keep them in stock, I thought, I'm going to make this a little bit simpler for myself. And then along the way, I started to complicate it again. So maybe that's just me. I'm a complicating kind of person. But I like the detail of things. I really enjoy the detail, and I love being surprised by things. So with that said, I decided to have my soap recipe book printed. And at first, this was one volume. So there's 20 recipes in here. And along the way, I discovered that lots of people won't even read my book because it has animal products in it. And that made me really sad and frustrated. So I understand. And you know, the irony is that people that will use animal products like lard don't have any problem reading vegetable books. So I separated them into 2 books, so you don't have any, there's no longer an issue, and I can stop getting those emails. Thank you. Volume 2, vegetable-based recipes, and Volume 1, animal-based recipes. So there are 10 recipes, 10 soap dough, soap bar recipes in each volume. The animal one, to be abundantly clear, are largely lard, no, I think they're all lard-based, but they're all animal-based, so they're lard-based. And there's lots of information in here. The vegetable one are all vegetable-based. I promise you they're all vegetable-based. So when you get it, please don't email me saying these aren't vegetable-based, because they are. It's just a matter of actually reading it. So these, and I want to, and okay, and so here's the other part about this. So I got to add so much more to these books because I was so focused on them, and I kept asking myself the question, what do I want to see in this book? What do I want to help me maintain inspiration, to delight me every time I open the book? So I added, along the way, I added graphics in here, like here. I added graphics and text, and I also added far more information than I have in any of the previous books. So this has so much more, and I just didn't even have any idea that I had so much to say about soap dough, but I have been practicing this particular craft for a really long time. And so these pictures, by the way, I changed these pictures into graphics, and this is my equipment in here. These are my actual tools that I use, not that one, but I really like the antique scale, so I put that in there. And just little cues along the way, and step-by-step, a basic step-by-step covering of how to make soap. So the confusing part is people want to know how to make soap, but making soap and soap dough are the exact same thing with a few variables. And the most important variable is to understand how soap dough maintains its dough-like consistency, or its pliability, its sort of soft clay pliability consistency. And once you understand that, then you can understand that any recipe can be turned into soap dough. The quality of the soap dough is largely contingent on the recipe itself. And so I've boiled it down to 20 recipes that I find to be the very best for making soap dough. I see lots of people make soap dough on the internet, lots of people, and they make huge claims about it. But when you look at the quality of it, it's not very good quality, because you could see the bumps and the irregularities in it. So again, this is about the magical quality of things. I want somebody to look at my soap, say a popcorn soap, and be astonished that this is not actually popcorn, and that it smells nice, and that you can use it, and it's good for your skin. That moment, that astonishing moment, is what I strive for in all my creations. You can't have that astonishing moment if you see behind the veil, if you see the trick itself. So the trick would be to see the irregularities in the soap dough and know immediately that that's soap dough. If you see it and go, that looks like polymer clay. Wait a minute, is that clay on top of a soap? And all these questions start to arise. And why, that's the question. Why would I want that? Because that space is so delightful and it gets people to think for themselves, to think. And that's, to me, that's the most important thing when it comes to the expression of a human being, is to think for yourself and ask questions and be curious about life. And that, all that space starts to spark inspiration. So, and inspiration comes, self-inspiration. That's, to me, that's also the most important thing. That you start to come up with unique ideas and sincere ideas to your expression. And that, to me, is truth. So anyway, here we go. So every single thing in here, there's little hidden quotes in here along the way, and there's obvious quotes along the way. There's a little puzzle in here, and there's things to get you excited about making things. And there's a quote on every single recipe in here, and I matched the quote for sometimes the type of recipe, but there's clues along the way that I can't tell you about, and you can figure them out if you like. And there is also examples. See, there's a letter from one soap witch to another, which I love. Yes, I created it. And there's examples of herbs along the way too, both in the vegetable and the animal. There's examples of animals in both the vegetable and the animal, because to have the image of it in front of you helps to spark ideas. Even if you don't want to copy that exact thing in soap, you know, oh, maybe a blueberry will fit better, or just little things along the way, little details that I thought would be good for the imagination, things that I'm interested in, lists. And there's ways to, let me see, I think I have a page in here that I started. Is this the one? I think so. I started using, I think this, I bought a couple proofs because I needed to make changes. All that takes so much time, by the way. Here we go. So I started using this as my actual book. So I'm very pleased with the use of it. I'm pleased with how it feels when I sit down to write in it. And there you go. So all these books come in a set like this. And I began to ask myself questions. So I have a friend on the internet. I've never met her in person, but I love her dearly. She's been very, very kind to me. And she's private, so I won't mention her name, but I just love her dearly. And I have things in my life that trigger at certain places in my world her, because she's given me gifts over the years. And one of the gifts she gave me was a book bag. And I was so happy with it. And I researched and I looked and I asked for bids, essentially, for the idea. And no sewing people I could come up with were interested in taking me on as far as a book bag. And I was willing to pay them and to compensate them for their time. And no one came back to me. And I think I put out 5 or 7 bids. So with that said, I sourced these. And I'm pleased with them. I like the iridescence of this, and there's silk flowers on them. They're not entirely silk, but there is silk flowers on here. And for anybody that does a little bit of magic, you know that putting your magical tools in silk, they say, is one of the more ideal fabrics. So that's what I did. And so there's 4 different colors. There's purple, this iridescent purple, iridescent olive green, black, which is my favorite, and then this other iridescent sort of emerald green. And so in order to personalize these for you, I put in these labels so that you know where it came from, and each one has a unique key. And I'm not going to tell you why the key's there, but they're all different. assembled all these. Again, I'm making things too complicated, but I asked myself the question, what would I want, what would I be tickled to get? What would I want to see in my bag if I were going to purchase all 4 books? If I'm going to commit to an author for her information for all 4 of her books, what would I want to see? And this is one of them, because I use these on a regular basis, and I have a hard time finding the size that I like to fit books in. They have lots of little tarot bags, but there are very few that I could find that are this size to fit books in. And so I found these, and I'm happy to offer these for this very limited Sorcery Soap book collection. Also, what you're going to get, you get one of these. These are soap cookies. So you have a physical example of what I talk about in the books. That was very important to me. So you get one of these and one of these. So these aren't just soap cookies. These are hand painted by me, each individually one, each one chosen for the colors and the idea of it. And there's a card, so each one of these cards, so just so you get some background, I've designed every label, I've designed the entire card. Each card is a little bit different, and cards of inspiration that you can keep. You get soap samples, so each one has, there's a variety. This one happens to be rosewood. This is a sample from my bat soap. This. There's just so many that I'll give you a couple. And on each card, it says, those who believe in magic will always find it. And there's all the ways to connect with Sorcery Soap. But I didn't want it just to be all about advertisement. That's why I put these in there, because these have different quotes on them too. And these are for you. You could gift them away or keep them yourself. And also, my friend who sent me all those wonderful things also sent me a broom pen, which I couldn't find anywhere, and then because I didn't want to use it because I was afraid it would run out and then I wouldn't have it anymore, but I found them, and so these will also be included in the soap set, and the soap book set. So I hope that answers a lot of questions, and then you can see exactly what's going to be in your soap book set. And I will make an announcement, and hopefully if you're signed up to the Sorcery Soap newsletter, you'll get the announcement, because these will be very limited, and I'm not going to keep these in stock all the time, but I will keep the books singularly in stock. So, and those can be combined, so then you only pay one shipping price, so that's pretty ideal too. And so, and also one more thing before I let you go. Let me put these aside. One more thing. I want you to know about these books. So people who, I was in the writing world for a lot of years. And when I say that, I sincerely mean that. I wrote every single day for 5 years. And it wasn't just my writing practice. It was submitting to groups and submitting to literary magazines and periodicals and books. And just the laundry list is endless. And I got my writing practice in, and what I discovered from that is it's soul-crushing. It is a soul-crushing process. And for every one rejection letter you get, without an agent, you can't do any of it. If you're not published, you can't get an agent if you're not published. For every rejection, or for every acceptance you get, 50 rejections or something, unless you're just really lucky. And I wasn't lucky. And what I took that as to mean is that wasn't the path for me, because it was so heart-wrenching all the time. And so when I decided to publish these books, I self-published, which means nobody funded me. I did all this on my own. I worked largely for free. I continued to offer them in ebook format, even though I don't care to do that, because I think the book itself is the most prized thing. I have libraries. I've given away libraries and libraries. I have a library of books right now that I adore. I love my books, and when I'm lacking in inspiration, which is not that often, but sometimes I just want that stimulation of a tactile thing, I pull out my books. So everything in every one of these books, from the photography, from creating the soaps, to researching and cultivating the recipes, to the layout of every single book, I did. Like, each one of these books is my creation. No one had a hand in it. The only hand they had was in editing. And that's important for you to hear, because I'm not a big deal. I'm like me, doing my thing. And I am really grateful that you're curious and interested about what I've created. And that makes me work harder and makes me want to present the best thing, the best version of what I do to you. So thank you for listening so far, and I'm really, really excited this week that the books are coming in and to be able to offer them to you. Thank you.